It's Maya and Miguel. What they will do next, you never can tell. It's Maya and Miguel, brother and sister and best friends as well. With each misadventure, they're put to the test. Working together is what they do best. Helping their family and friends, that's the start. They make a great team as they each do their part. It's Maya and Miguel. What they will do next, you never can tell. It's Maya and Miguel, brother and sister and best friends as well. Brother and sister, Maya and Miguel.
Will?
Yes, Lucas.
I've been, we've been there's been a theme lately with the last, well, counting this one, last two episodes of PBS Kids. So I decided, we should make the podcast bilingual. Just a second. Oh. Siri, ask Will in Spanish, how was your day today? Let's see.
In Spanish, I just a second Siri ask Will is.
Oh?
I don't think that worked quite the way that you wanted it to.
Wait, let's try this again.
Sure.
Hey, Will, how was your day in Spanish? Let's see if this goes.
Un segundo, Siri. Pregúntale a Will.
There we go. And you could boost that in post. I'm learning. We got the Duolingo going, Will. We're going to learn Español. Okay?
I'm very impressed. And, gracias, Siri.
There we go. Poor, Finada. I'll take the reins from there, from our robot overlords. Well, Will, I'm glad you're doing well in Espanol and in English for this edition For the Kids.
Buenos ding dong diddly dias, senors. Welcome to, as Lucas said, For the Kids, a PBS Kids podcast. So today we are doing something that has quite a bit to do with the Spanish language, and it is the result of our second ever poll, I should say, our second ever voted on poll over on patreon.com/ElwoodCityLimits, which is where you're likely listening to this. And everybody, the unanimous vote was for Maya and Miguel. So we are going to be taking a look at this cartoon that I definitely remember interacting with at some point. Like there were little bits and pieces of this I remembered, but it was right around the time where I would have stopped watching PBS Kids.
Yeah, I too remember Maya and Miguel. And I guess to set the stage, because who knows if this is my opinion now, but as a child, I wasn't very fond of it.
Okay.
This was one of the, and I feel like now I just have to say this is like a 4-hour block of television I would have been watching on PBS when I got home from school, because every week I'm like, this was the show before Arthur, this was the show after Arthur. It turns out I was probably watching TV from the second I got home until I went to bed at like 7:30. So this was in the 4-hour block of PBS shows. But I think Maya and Miguel would have been one of those shows where I would have switched to YTV or something when it was on, because I wasn't very fond of it. Now, I don't remember the specific reason. I don't think I like the look of it. But I suspect I have a guess of what the reason was, and that's kind of influenced by my most recent watch we did this week.
I'm sorry, did you say that you went to bed at 7:30?
Yeah, you'd go to bed after SpongeBob.
How old were you?
Like elementary school.
Okay.
I
wish I could remember
probably
my
didn't
own
start
bedtime. That seems really early.
I probably didn't start staying up much later until like, I don't know, like grade 3 or 4. I'm not sure. I used to go to bed really early, and I would wake up really early. Like I used to wake up at like 4:30 a.m.
jeez.
And like watch like the opening of like, because back then on YTV they would play like Dragon Ball Z and stuff, and then you could tell when the day was getting started because at 6 a.m. they would play like Oh Canada. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. Yeah. Wow, your parents, with your parents coming down at like what, 6 or 7 in the morning and being like, well, he's been up for hours.
Yeah, I would have been, because the TV at the time was in the kitchen. So I would just be sitting in the kitchen watching, like, Lord knows what, the Canadian national anthem, and my parents would be rubbing the sleep out of their eyes. So I'm not sure. I don't know what kind of system they had with making me go to bed at like 7:30 or 8 o'clock at the latest. But eventually I got to stay up later. Probably when I was, how old are you when you're 13? That's like grade 6, grade 7?
That's grade 8.
Okay.
Grade 7 or 8.
I was definitely staying up late around then, because once we got to like that age, I was staying up to be watching Naruto, which didn't come on till like 11:30 on YTV.
Holy crap, are you kidding me?
Yeah, no, it was on late. You had to stay up late, because, Will, in Naruto, there's blood. It's crazy.
Well, okay, but like, so your earliest bedtime was 7:30, and then it got boosted to 11? Like, mine was a lot more consistent. It was like, I think I started at 8, and then eventually worked my way up to 9 and 9:30, and then eventually 10 o'clock. Like, wow. I'm completely floored by this. The sheer extremes at which you have slept through the night.
I know, and now I go to bed at like, geez. It's either, like, honestly, now that I think about it, my current sleep schedule has been influenced by this, because last night I went to bed super early at like 9:30.
Wow.
But most nights I stay up till 1.
Oh man, I can't do that anymore. I'm too old.
Looking at my phone, my GD phone.
I accidentally stayed up later than I usually do last night, all the way to 11:15.
Ooh, look at you, night owl.
Yeah, really. It does happen, children. It will happen to you. So Maya and Miguel, there were very scant few things I remembered about this, and we'll get into them as we talk about the show. But I will say, on our last edition of For the Kids, we had a lot to talk about Dragon Tales, and we've had some other shows that are fairly rich in terms of backstory and background. This, I'll be honest with you, is not one of them. There's not a whole lot of information around the internet that I was able to find about Maya and Miguel. And, it seems to be one of those, kind of similar to what we talked about with Liberty's Kids, where this wasn't at least as far as I could tell, this wasn't like a grand, I had a vision of this 20 years ago, and then I knew I had to make a television show. It's like, no, somebody just, like a producer had an idea, and they just went forward with it. And we'll get into a little bit more about the who's and the whys, but that's kind of what it comes down to, honestly. Maya and Miguel is a show created on PBS Kids, obviously, created and produced by Deborah Forte, who was at one point the president of Scholastic Studios, who has over 300 production credits to her name to this day. She produced shows that you would be familiar with, like Clifford, The Magic School Bus, Goosebumps, Animorphs, and a bunch of other TV and television shows and movies that we are both familiar with.
Yeah, some all-time classics on that list.
And also creator and producer Carlos Darta was not able to find out anything about him at all. So sorry about that. Carlos Darta remains a bit of a mystery. Maya and Miguel, it aired from October 2004 to October 2007, so I definitely wouldn't have been watching PBS Kids on the regular anymore. I would have been 14 at that point, so on the brink of high school. And they aired 65 episodes over 5 seasons. With something like Dragon Tales, I'll use 2 weeks ago as an example, but we talk about this often of like, the aim of this show was X, what they wanted to do was Y. With this one, I kind of had to just make the inference of, it seems to be similar to Dragon Tales, actually, another attempt to appeal to the Spanish-speaking market, which, of course, in the United States is quite large, and to promote the Spanish language to its young viewers. In fact, Maya and Miguel was also broadcast on Univision, which is a U.S.-based Spanish-language channel. And I found this off of IMDb. It's the only show on PBS Kids where, you know how sometimes before the show they would have an ad for Chuck E. Cheese? Like Chuck E. Cheese was often a sponsor of PBS Kids shows?
Oh, yes. I actually really wanted to go to Chuck E. Cheese all the time as a kid because of those ads before Arthur and the like.
So this was the only show on PBS Kids where the Chuck E. Cheese ad was half in English and half in Spanish.
Ooh, donde está Chuck E. Cheese?
Yeah, really. I mean, really, don't they, Esta, these days? I don't even... Is Chuck E. Cheese still around?
Oh, yes. Of course.
Okay. I thought for some reason they went bankrupt or something like that.
Maybe there was Dave and Buster's. Who knows?
Maybe.
I mean, who knows during the pandemic, right? I don't know if Chuck E. Cheese's are doing takeout.
Very true.
For your Chuck E. Cheese pizza, my goodness.
Yeah, I don't think you'd want Chuck E. Cheese takeout. And as far as pure background information, that's it. Like, that's pretty much all I have that was, of interest or notable. So it really is just PBS, a producer of Scholastic, thought up a show, pitched to PBS, they made 5 seasons of it. There it is. Like, so I find it interesting that a lot of people voted for Maya and Miguel, because that would imply to me that at least among our patrons, there is a subsection of people who fondly remember the show. But, it's not like Between the Lions where it's like, oh, we're promoting literacy or we're promoting da-da-da-da. I mean, there is a lot of Spanish language content in the show, but it really seems to be, aside from that, kind of just another cartoon, at least on the face of it.
I think
we'll get into if that's true.
I think if I was, and just like Nate Silver, it's pretty foolhardy to trying to look into statistics too hard to try and discern some meaning. But I think if I was to garner anything from the way the vote went in the Patreon, I think it's that, if you look at the time period the show was airing, 2004 to 2007, it really was kind of everywhere during that time. And I don't mean everywhere in terms of like merchandise and all that stuff like we were talking about in past shows, but in terms of if you were watching PBS, there was ads for Maya and Miguel all the time. I remember even though as a kid I didn't like it, I kind of had to actively avoid it because it was on all the time. So Maya and Miguel, for at least people who are in the age group, people watching PBS from 2004 to 2007, not exactly the same as me, but pretty similar to my age group. It was this kind of ever-present show. So that's probably what I would attribute that vote turnout to. Because what were the other shows, right? Word Girl, which is fairly new. I think fairly new. Yeah, Word Girl is quite a bit newer.
Booba, which is around a similar time frame. Like
now that the vote is concluded, Booba would have gotten my vote. If you're a freak like me, you want me and Will to watch Booba, because that show's insane. And then what was
Dinosaur Train, which is a lot newer.
Yeah, so I've never even heard of Dinosaur Train. So
well, and that was what I wanted to do, because Dinosaur Train, the name sounds cool, and I want to know more about it. But literally, like my 4-year-old niece would watch Dinosaur Train like now. So I understand what you're saying here, Lucas. We definitely seem to have a period of time that is most popular. Anyway, probably won't be seeing Dinosaur Train on the poll anytime soon. What I want to go forward from here, of course, is we always like to talk about the voice cast, and there are a couple of notable voice actors. The cast largely is like veteran voice actors, so I guarantee, once again, if any of them sound familiar, or if you want to check out their IMDb's, I am pretty confident in saying there is at least one thing that all of these voice actors have done that you know them from. For example, the voice of Maya is Candy Milo, who is also the voice of Word Girl, so another big
There's
PBS
that connection.
kid show. A lot of voices on Codename Kids Next Door, which I think is bigger for our American listeners. I never watched it.
Ooh, I was a fan back in the day. I like Codename Kids Next Door. That's a cool show. That is one of the shows with like an all-time, like in the way that ABC's Dinosaurs had a really dark, crazy ending. Codename Kids Next Door has a strangely weird ending.
Really?
For an animated series. Oh yeah, the ending is like as much of a shift and is as high concept as it could get. It's pretty wild. Do yourself a favor and look up how Codename Kids Next Door ends after the show.
I will. Yeah, no, that just completely passed me by. I remember playing a Codename Kids Next Door game on the Cartoon Network Flash game website.
Ooh.
So that's as far as I got. She also did a couple of voices in Final Fantasy X, if that's something you've ever played. Again, she has Candy Milo, hundreds of credits, and it was just like, I'm just going to pick a couple that you or I might know, or our listeners might know. But again, check out all their credits. You probably recognize them from something. Ditto goes for Miguel's voice, which is a lady named Nika Futterman, who I recognized from Hey Arnold as Olga, the older sister of Helga. And if you've seen the Star Wars: The Clone Wars cartoon, she played Asajj Ventress, which I think that's a pretty popular cartoon. So that there's a chance that you may know Asajj Ventress. There is the talking parrot Paco, who is voiced by Carlos Alazraqui. Are you ready for our Arthur connection for this episode?
Oh, I've braced myself. I'm ready.
As a matter of fact, I think this might blow your wig off here. So, Carlos Alazraqui is the voice in Arthur of Dr. Frederick Fugue.
Oh my goodness. Really?
Yes.
Okay, that's not who I was going to guess. That's wild.
Mr. Alazraqui is, again, another veteran voice actor. And, Lucas, it turns out that we know Dr. Fugue's voice from somewhere even more popular than Arthur.
Wow.
Do you have any... I mean, I know that that's a very, very vague hint that I've given you.
More popular than Arthur?
I'm telling you, internationally popular in the late 1990s.
My word, is it from The Simpsons?
No, it's not a television show, and it's not a movie, but his voice was internationally popular in the mid to late 1990s and early 2000s.
And it's not a TV show?
It is not a TV show.
It's not like the LimeWire soundbite where it's like, "This is Bill Clinton. I did not have sexual relations with that woman." It's not that download, I'm assuming.
No. I love that that's your guess.
Popular audio from the 90s. Yeah, let me know. Hit me with the truth.
So the voice of Dr. Frederick Fugue was also the voice of the Taco Bell Chihuahua.
Oh my God! I actually
Yo quiero Taco Bell.
I had a what a legend. I had a T-shirt with the Taco Bell Chihuahua on it. That I thrifted. It was like an XXL T-shirt. It was like purple, and it had like a monogram of the Taco Bell Chihuahua. But I don't know where that T-shirt is anymore. Anyway,
it just completely blew my hair back. That and when we have talked about him in Arthur, we love Dr. Frederick Fugue.
True.
And it's such a wonderful voice. And it turns out that he's one of the most popular voices of, like, the voice everybody knows.
Yeah, I
or
bet
at least everybody
he's still
our age
living
knows.
off those Taco Bell checks.
I certainly hope so. The other regular voice I wanted to note was Maya and Miguel's abuela, who was an actor named Lupe Ontiveros. She was in movies like Selena.
Whoa!
And she was also in Desperate Housewives in a ongoing role. And this brought up a memory for me. She was in a live-action show, a live-action sitcom called The Brothers Garcia, which I watched so much of on YTV in like 2002 or something like that. And for the last several years, I've been like, what was that show where every episode ended with Todo para la Familia? And it was The Brothers Garcia. And that's how I found out.
This is a memory I forgot I had. I, too, remember The Brothers Garcia, but this was, like, deep, deep in my, like, subconscious. I can't believe this. This is wild.
So, there, and also additional voices. We didn't hear them in this episode, but apparently there are characters that are voiced by actors like Lucy Liu and Elizabeth Pena. So, not a bad little guest voice cast there. And so they do have, and we do get a guest voice in this episode as well, which we are going to talk about right here. That's all the history. That's all the voice notes. Let's talk about the episode that we picked. Now, sometimes when it comes to an episode, a PBS Kids show that has like a little bit of a story or like a continuity, let's say, we like to just start with the first episode. With this one, I was going down the episode list, and there was definitely one that caught my eye,
Yes.
and I knew that it would provide for some interesting material. That would be in season 2, episode 10, The Wrestler Next Door.
Yeah, when you sent me this link, I was like, I know why Will chose this one.
Well, of course. I mean, hey, we do sometimes try to keep it light on the wrestling because it's not for everybody. But I have to indulge myself sometimes. And this isn't just any wrestling. This is lucha libre.
Exactly.
So this is an endpoint for a lot of people. And you wouldn't be as authentic a Spanish speaking show if you didn't have a little bit of lucha in there. So let's first talk about, as we always like to do, the theme song composed by Jack Livesey and David Rickard. So that I was like the original opening joke, Lucas. You had that one. I was going to do a little takeoff of the Maya and Miguel theme song.
Will, indulge me.
It's Lucas, and William, brothers, podcasters, and also friends too.
Wow, that was something else.
And I'm doing a little shoulder jive. You can't see it, but it's
you know what?
It's happening.
The theater of the mind, Will. The Maya and Miguel theme song. So, okay. I will say that the Maya and Miguel theme song is an earworm, right? It gets stuck in your head. When I hear the words Maya and Miguel, it's often translated into my brain immediately as like the singing version of Maya and Miguel. It's just like, it's a fun alliteration. It's a fun set of syllables. Maya and Miguel. Like, it just kind of works. It kind of flows. The theme song is kind of fun and bouncy. Now, I don't think it deserves banger status, which many of these PBS theme songs do. But I will say that, like, it really, really does go hand in hand with the show. Like, and I think this is because, I mean, I was talking earlier about how this show was kind of unescapable if you were watching PBS during this time period. And I feel like the preview or like the ads for this show that would play in between other PBS shows was like a snippet of the theme song. So that's why I'm so kind of intimately familiar, and this theme song just rattles around in my head, is because like you would just see ads over and over again going like, it's Maya and Miguel. So that's all to say that I think it's totally serviceable, and I think it actually is more than serviceable as its job as an earworm. I just don't think it's the kind of opus that some of the this is pretty good company, Will. All these PBS theme songs. I think we've had literally one bad one, and then like 8 bangers. So this is closer to the middle of the road, but still like undeniably kind of for the era iconic.
Earworm is a really good way to put it. And I had here, it's like really the lyrics themselves are pretty, it's what you would come to expect from this sort of thing. But I said, my note was, this theme is totally saved by that hot rumba beat. It's so spicy. It's awesome. Like it does really kind of get your shoulders moving a little bit when you're listening to it. And the earworm capability of, it's Maya and Miguel, just like, ooh, okay, all right. It's not technically, the best theme song, but it does move. And, it's certainly, I don't think I would listen to it on its own, but I was not unhappy to hear it here. I also wanted to make a couple of other crew distinctions here. So the episode here is directed by Tony Cluck, who is
excuse me?
Kluck, Cluck.
That's like, I feel like if someone...
Now, Lucas, he is not El Pollo.
Yeah, okay, he's not El Pollo. I'm just gonna say, that's like, whenever like in the Muppets, they show the names of the, like, the chicken Muppets that are literally just chickens? Like, that's what they would call them or something. It's like Tony Cluck. That's crazy.
So he is a animation director who has worked on Daria and King of the Hill. He has a lot of Daria credits. And
I take away
directed a few episodes. King of the Hill.
I take away everything I said, making fun of his name. My goodness, Tony Cluck, Daria and King of the Hill. You want to talk about legendary cartoons? My word.
And another trivia note here: the episode written by a man named Chris Nee, who is a cartoon writer since the mid 1990s, and is the creator of Doc McStuffins, which is one of my niece's favorites. Doc McStuffins. I've
heard nothing but lauded praise about Doc McStuffins, PhD.
Well, I'd say one of the biggest kids shows of the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. So.
It's up there with Paw Patrol, yeah.
Speaking of living high on like a check, I really hope he's getting that Doc McStuffins money, Mr. Chris Nee. So the episode, shall we talk about the animation style? I didn't have any notes about it, but did you have anything specific about?
I mean,
the way that they're animated?
I think my tastes have changed since I was a kid. I think like. It was less that I was looking at animation for animation's sake when I was a little kid, and I just kind of liked what I liked, right? So if something looked like anime, I liked it. If something looked like a little bit weird, like sticking around, I liked it. This show's animation style as an adult is totally inoffensive. As a kid, I kind of thought the characters looked a little ugly. Like I didn't like the way their eyes were so far apart and big. and their little like pointy chins. But as an adult, you know, we've watched a lot of PBS shows and have tried to kind of review their animation objectively. And from that perspective, you know, the show actually looks pretty good. Especially, you know, in this show is animated with Flash world we live in now. I think this show is very vibrant, and I think there's a lot of motion in the animation. And so I kind of have to, you know, go back on old Lucas's opinions and say that I actually quite like the animation from a modern perspective. I'm not crazy about the character design. Like, I really don't like the way they draw their eyes, and I think there is a little...
Their heads look very big too. They almost look like dolls of themselves. Like these would be the dolls you would play with.
And I mean, you could levy this criticism against numerous shows, but there is a case of same face going on as well. Like, I have it paused right now, and they've kind of given everyone the same eyes and the same nose. So, I mean, but that's nitpicking. Like, I'm just happy it's not like animated with Flash, to be perfectly honest with you. And it's got like, it seems like there's a lot of different frames going on, and they do a lot with what they have. So sure, you know, the character design isn't my favorite, but I think the animation's fine.
All right. So this particular episode is about a man named Gus Lopez, who is moving into Maya and Miguel's apartment complex from Mexico City.
I was going to say, how do you get a grand piano from Mexico City to... Where are they? Are they in San Francisco? Where are they in the United States?
I think somewhere in America. I didn't quite put it down. I'm not certain, but I would say, I'd probably say somewhere in America.
Yeah, so
San Francisco is probably a good guess.
It's somewhere in the southern part of America, but Mexico City, like, did you get a U-Haul? Like, that's an expensive to move across, not even just state lines, but across the border with a grand piano. I wonder how he pulled that off.
Great question. Although he is nearly inhumanly strong, and for good reason, as we find out. By the way, his voice sounded very familiar to me. So Gus Lopez is voiced by Eric Estrada, who was on the original Chips, Kids Ask Your Parents, and did voice on C-Lab 2021 for a few years. Anyway, he's one of those actors that's kind of in a little bit of everything.
You
probably recognize
C-Lab 2021. Adore that show.
You probably recognize him to look at him. So I was like, oh, okay, I know who that is. So one of the first big notes that I had here. So in this scene, you mentioned the grand piano. He's trying to move this piano upstairs. Maya and Miguel and their cousin Tito, who is also from Mexico City, try to help him with the piano, but it doesn't go as planned. And we find out that he is the owner of a bakery nearby that's going to be opening that day.
This is also where we're introduced to kind of one of the main dynamics of Maya and Miguel. So Maya and Miguel are twins, I think.
Yes.
And Maya's whole gimmick just seems to be that she, like, is hyperbolic. Like, she exaggerates the truth all the time. And she's kind of getting in Miguel in these weird situations because of this. So, for instance, she claims that Miguel had lifted up a car with one hand, where in reality it was like an RC car. And this is kind of like a running thing throughout the episode. And I think I remember this from the original Maya and Miguel, is that, like, Maya's whole thing was that she's just, like, loose with the truth, or with the details at least.
I see.
And I'm not going to lie, Will, and this was kind of a consistent criticism throughout this episode, and I think this is why I didn't like the show when I was a kid. Maya, a little bit annoying.
You find?
Why are you lying all the time? Just be real.
I'll be honest with you, I didn't really form an opinion on any of the characters, positive or negative. I mean, I guess if I were to find anybody particularly annoying, it would be Cousin Tito, but even then, like, the episode was over before I could really feel any certain way about him. What I did like was, and this was pretty much from the jump of the episode, and it seems to be, I wouldn't say the gimmick, but it distinguishes the show from other similar shows, like, say, a Dragon Tales. There is a lot of Spanglish going on. So someone will, and it's using a lot of context. So I wrote down a couple of lines from the very beginning of Abuela asks, like, who is it that's moving in? And Tito says, no sé, and kind of shrugs his shoulders. So then I was understanding, that means I don't know. Or, somebody's like, oh, he's moving in. And somebody says, aquí? Here? So me, as somebody who, English is my first language, I don't have any other language capabilities. I know, smatterings of other languages, but it's mostly words that I've picked up from TV and movies. This was helpful. And there were a lot of other instances where they mix in, they either say something in Spanish and then kind of say the same thing again in English, or they say something in Spanish and then somebody else will respond in English, and by that context, you understand what they said in Spanish. And I thought that it was very clear, and I actually really enjoyed learning what it is that they were saying.
I agree. I think that's like one of the things the show does really effectively, and the things that shows like this and Dragon Tales do effectively is that, they say the easiest way to learn a language is to immerse yourself in that language, right? Like, go to the place.
Yeah.
You want to learn French, move to Montreal. But the thing is, for people who don't have the option to do so, I found, and like yourself, Will, I only really speak one language, and also I'm dyslexic, so it's incredibly hard for me to learn another one. But I do find that you do pick things up when you watch, like, I've been watching, like, all these Godard movies, and I'm starting to be like, oh, that's what this is in French. Or, like, watching a bunch of Terrace House or a bunch of anime, you pick up, like, Japanese phrases here and there. And I think the same is true for shows like Maya and Miguel. So if, as we're guessing, because we don't really know, but as we're guessing, the intent of Maya and Miguel is to have a children's show that portrays, Hispanic culture, and sort of fosters that kind of, Spanish American culture or Mexican American culture, and also, keeps the Spanish language in kids' heads. I think it's effective at that stated goal.
I agree. So after getting a good look at him, and he appears to be a strong gentleman with a very distinctive mustache, Cousin Tito believes that Senor Lopez is actually a famous luchador named El Guamazo Lopez.
I was confused about what Cousin Tito was so mystified by at first, because he literally goes humana, humana, humana. And I was like, what is this show trying to say? It's because it's his favorite wrestler.
El Guamazo translates to either the punch or the hard hit. And we do a little bit of an imagination here where it's like he's your typical, like, colorful luchador. Like, he's got the mask, he's got the full body suit, it's in very bright colors. I believe he even has a cape. And he is facing off with a dragon. I did not hear the dragon's full name. I didn't catch it, but I love that the dragon he fights is a junior. Like, the end of his name is a junior, which, I will admit I do not know a whole lot about Lucha Libre. The times where I've tried to watch it, it has not stuck. I would really like to try again. As we talk, there is a Triple A's Triple Mania is on YouTube this Saturday, so I may give that a go. But one thing that I do know is that there are a lot of luchadors who go by either Noun Junior or El Hijo del Noun. So that's one of my preferred El Hijo del somebody or other.
I was surprised by the fact that the dragon was like a literal dragon. It does the Tiger Mask TV show thing where instead of like a guy wearing a dragon mask, which is what this person, like, if this wrestler was real, it would just look like Luchasaurus from AEW. But because it's a cartoon, they just made it a real dragon, which is exactly what they do with like Tiger Mask and like the anime representations of Tiger Mask. In real life, he's a guy wearing a tiger mask, and in Tiger Mask the TV show, he's a guy with a tiger's head.
Yes. So yeah, that's all in Tito's imagination. That's how I took it. Although, who knows? It could be a distant Luchasaurus relation. Now, I can't exactly remember what prompts this, but what I did write down is that there is one other thing about Maya and Miguel that I distinctly remember, and I also think, again, I didn't watch much of this show, if any, but I did see this a lot in the commercials, which is whenever Maya has a realization about something, her headband that holds up her ponytail, her like scrunchie, starts to glow, and she says, SOS! And like, I think that's like a once an episode thing that she does. She has a realization, and SOS means, that's it! So
it's like when Jimmy Neutron has a brain blast, and we zoom in on all the neurons in his brain firing off.
Very much so. So they have a realization. The whole thing is that Tito is trying to convince them that he is El Guamazo, but there's a lot of talk about like proof and what's just imaginary and all this kind of stuff. So they decide to go down to his bakery to do a little bit more investigating into the truth. What I found strange is that there are action breaks in the show. Like, there are fade outs and fade back ins, which is weird because, like, I think we might have even seen this in Liberty's Kids, which is another show that was broadcast outside of PBS. It's just like, why are there commercial breaks in like a PBS show where there are no commercial breaks? It just took me out of it a little bit.
Yeah.
So at his bakery, Lopez is showing them how to make pan dulce. And we have a couple of puns here, as he's trying to, it's not so much that he's like, oh no, the kids are going to find out. It's just these keep slipping out. So he'll say, all the ingredients must be mashed. Or, if any of these ingredients get wet, my entire operation is pinned down. And Maya's kind of taking notes of like little Freudian slips that he does, which maybe gives away the fact that he is a wrestler.
I'm surprised he wasn't like, it's a work, brother.
Well, speaking of works and killing the business, one of the characters gets into that near the end of the show, so don't worry about it. We will get there. And Tito's trying to get a look at a very distinctive birthmark on this very brawny man. Like, there's a point where he gets a little overheated and he like undoes the top button, and I'm like, ooh. Senor Lopez.
Humana. You're on Tito's.
So he does again. So he's got all the things that El Gomazzo has. He has a very distinctive mustache. He has a birthmark on his chin. He has a birthmark on his chest. And he's just about his size, and his name is Lopez. So they are very determined to get to the bottom of things. Was it? No, sorry. I'll talk about that later. So the kids invite Senor Lopez to dinner, and their abuela does know who El Gomazzo is. In fact, she decides to invite someone from her book club, which just so happens to be El Gomazzo's biggest number one enemy, Sinister Sombrero, to see if he really is who he says he is.
And, okay, so Sinister Sombrero, this show, ostensibly, is created by someone who is from the Hispanic community in America. What was his name again, the producer?
So the producer,
the mystery producer.
Yeah, so the one that you're referencing, as I go back in my notes, is Carlos Darta.
Carlos Darta. It's got great representation for people in those Hispanic communities in America. I think that's one of the best benefits of shows like this and Dragon Tales is, for kids to be able to see themselves on TV. And I think that's really important and invaluable. That being said, this Sombrero character, I mean, listen, Mexican people did wear sombreros at some point.
Totally.
But I don't know.
They may still.
I just could see Vince McMahon making this sombrero character, and then it would be a very different story. I suppose that's the difference. It's the intent and who's writing it. But the sombrero character, I don't know. Something about it gave me the heebie-jeebies, but I suppose it's okay.
Yeah, and what for me the problem was, I think you make a good point, but for me what stood out wasn't the intent behind it, let's say. It was just the fact that you cut to, Abuela has a phone conversation with Sinister Sombrero, and it's literally like, he's kind of dressed up in kind of the, I want to say gaucho? Like, I think it's like a gaucho kind of outfit. Excuse me if I'm misusing that term. Again, I'm white, very white. And he has the sombrero on, but he doesn't have, like, a face. Like, he doesn't have a top half of his face. It's like the sombrero comes down to right below his eyes, but his eyes go through the brim of the sombrero.
It is so pretty. It looks pretty insane. Yeah, it's like there's like sombrero holes. Like, I think the intent is that there's sombrero holes on the brim of the sombrero for him to look through, and it covers his face. Like, the sombrero is half mask, half sombrero. But the way they drew the character is his eyebrows and his eyes are like floating on the brim of the sombrero. He looks like the Pokemon Ludicolo.
I've never heard of that one.
You should. It's worth Googling real quick.
Say it again?
Ludicolo, so Ludicolo.
Okay, Ludicolo. Yes. Oh, yeah, the bartender from Detective Pikachu.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's who it was. Okay, that was one of the Pokemon in Detective Pikachu, and we may talk about this in the review, which if you're listening to this, you can listen to right now. But yeah, that was one of them I didn't recognize, and I was like, okay, there's like hundreds of Pokemon I don't recognize by now, so I just kind of gave up.
There's probably more Pokemon
yes,
you don't
yes,
recognize than ones you
definitely.
do at this point. There's like 800.
Oh, absolutely. But yes, I can see what you're talking about. So they invite Sinister Sombrero, they invite Senor Lopez, and the idea is that by having them together, they will naturally, fight and all this kind of stuff. But they come dressed, as normal civilians in very nice looking suits, by the way. And eventually Tito lets it slip that it's like, you are Sinister Sombrero and you are El Guamazo Lopez. And this is where I was like, Tito is breaking not only kayfabe, but the luchador code here. Like, this is just something you do not do. And, if in case you're not aware, it's, lucha tradition that there are a lot of masked wrestlers and they don't take their masks off for anybody but their families. When they're out in public, they keep those masks on. Their public names are not a matter of public record.
In fact, like wrestlers like the great Sasuke in Japan ran for office as the wrestling character and never took off his mask.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. There are wrestlers who have like, for example, Blue Demon Jr., who has wrestled in a mask all his life. He's like he's like in his 50s or 60s or something. He still wears that mask all the time. So they take it very seriously. So for this punk kid to just come out of nowhere and blow up their spot, I was ready to throw down. You can't just do that, Tito, even if you are trying to find out if he is your hero. So they play coy. Obviously we know that one of them is Sinister Sombrero, but they don't exactly own up to it here. At least I don't remember them doing so. But at some point, eventually, Lopez does give in and says, yes, I was El Guamazo Lopez, but I stepped away from wrestling because I wanted to pursue my actual passion of being a baker. So, and he seems to be a pretty good one. He keeps inviting the kids back to his bakery for free samples and all that sort of stuff. And we see him do a little bit of wrestling on an unruly appliance of his near the end of this episode. Some sort of dough maker, I want to say. It's like, it's practically a robot because it's got like arms and stuff, and he really has to like actually wrestle it into submission.
Yeah, you are correct. It's like crazy. It's like talking, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's like very close to it. Also, several instances in this episode, like all throughout, of kids getting covered in dough.
Yeah, that's like a running gag.
Like,
I think it's supposed to be like a joke that like...
Ooh, ow.
Well, it's true. The kids keep getting covered with dough, and they like will look through this face of dough, and there's like a beat for like the audience to laugh. But I'm like, yeah, they got dough on their face, huh?
Yeah, it's. It's pretty basic as far as jokes go. So, it is for kids and all that. I will also say after it's revealed that Lopez, he reveals that he is or used to be a wrestler. I said, I bet you he has more benefits and job security as a baker rather than trying to make it as a professional wrestler.
It's true. That's like real life.
They come to peace because Tito is like, I want to, I want you to go back to wrestling. I want to learn wrestling from you and all this kind of stuff. And Lopez is like, well, I would really like to be a baker, but how about I teach you how to bake? And I think you'll like it just as much. So Tito agrees. He's going to be his new assistant. And the episode ends as, I don't know for sure, but I'm wondering if this is like every episode ends with Miguel kind of drawing something. I suspected the same. Like drawing an event for the day. So he's drawing an image of El Guamazo Lopez wrestling with the baking machine. And Maya's final line of narration, people say that you can't judge a book by its cover, but sometimes maybe you can. Okay, kind of talking out of both sides of our mouth here, but fair enough, I guess. And that's about it. That is, I don't know how typical of an episode of Maya and Miguel is, but of course, I had to gravitate towards the one that was about professional wrestling and Lucha Libre. Not, like I said, not a great fan of it, but I do have a lot of respect for it, and I would like to learn more about it. And, it's always very conducive to a colorful cartoon and children's format. So happy to see it here. But as far as a television show, spending time watching it, Lucas, all these years later, where do you stand on Maya and Miguel?
I still don't really like Maya and Miguel. There's just something about it. I don't know if I think I don't like the main characters. Like, I don't like Maya, Miguel, or Tito. I find them a little bit irritating. And if you can't get invested in the characters, you don't really care about what's going on. I think, the animation is super serviceable. I think it's a fun show for kids, especially because it's not really moralizing anything. It's just kind of like a fun cartoon a la a SpongeBob or a Fairly Odd Parents, albeit intended at a younger audience and with the intention of trying to kind of teach Spanish. And I think it's really important to be able to, like we were talking about earlier, have kids see themselves represented on TV. But aside from all those things, you're talking about me personally watching it as an adult, I was pretty bored. And this isn't the wrestling episode, Will. I should be at the edge of my seat. But I don't know. There's just something about it. I didn't really engage with me then, back in the day, and I don't really feel like engaged by it now.
I think the kindest that I can be to this show, and we're not gonna like crap on it or anything. So, but I think the best thing that I can say about this show is that I really appreciate the way that it integrates language. And I think that that's really cool and genuinely very helpful. Like, if I, a 30-year-old, was getting something out of it, then imagine a more malleable mind like a child watching it, and who is maybe either a native English speaker or a native Spanish speaker, and who is being able to use this, not entirely, like, you would obviously still have to be taking lessons and all that kind of stuff, but a way for it to, it's almost like if we were in Canada, I would have loved it if there was like an English-French version of a show like this, like Maya A. Michelle or something.
How long were you working on Maya A. Michelle?
I just thought of it. I'm funny. I just think of these things. So I thought that was really cool, and I appreciate its place there. But at the same time, it felt like a show. A lot of the shows that we've watched so far on For the Kids have felt like you could not do this anywhere except PBS. You have obviously shows that are very education focused, but you have other shows like, that involve puppetry. You have shows that involve talking about literature, talking about history, talking about, social behavior and all that kind of stuff. Or, just kind of weird shows that are obviously pointed at kids, but are not in not such a formulaic way as children's programming can be. This kind of felt like any other cartoon of its time. Like, there were a lot of kind of more slice of life cartoons when you and I were in junior high and high school, that kind of just washed over me after a while. And this is kind of the same. As much as the language thing is cool and I do like it, there's really not a lot here. It just feels it's kind of a flat line for me. As I mentioned before, I didn't really end up forming an opinion one way or the other. Like, the voice cast is obviously very good. The animation is bright, and it is nice to see it kind of hand-drawn, or at least kind of digitally assisted in some way. But I have basically no feelings about this show, other than praise for the language element. And that's really about it. And I guess it's kind of appropriate for a show that does not have a whole lot of information about it on the web. Aside from I feel like the last couple of ones that we've done, there's been a significant research portion that I've had to do, because there's a lot of content about talking about history of a show. And this is kind of, it feels, I almost hate to say the word disposable, but I really wonder if anybody remembers this to the degree that they remember Dragon Tales or Between the Lions or Teletubbies or Barney or what have you, any of the ones that we've talked about before. And that's where I would be eager for all of our patrons to come in. Especially for the ones, if you did vote for Maya and Miguel, I'd really like to know what your kind of lasting memories of the show are, and if they are indeed positive, or maybe they're negative and you wanted to hear us, trash about it. And, at the end of the day, I don't know how constructive that is, or how funny we can be about a show that really doesn't give me very much to be funny about. So, it is what it is, and it's kind of it, unfortunately. But I am glad that we took a look at it one way or the other, especially because that was what our listeners wanted us to. So I don't believe it's time wasted at all. And I am happy that we were able to kind of take a look back at something that was maybe a little bit more middle of the road, at least as far as we're concerned. Again, if you have any lasting positive memories about Maya and Miguel, let us know either in the Discord or in the comments of this audio post. And tell us what speaks to you about Maya and Miguel, if anything, or at least as a kid. Maybe it was one of your favorite shows or appointment viewing for you, and I'd really love to know more about that. So please do. Anyway, if you have any thoughts or feelings about any of the episodes that we've covered before, and if you have any ideas for episodes later, I have a nice long note file of potential shows to cover in the future. So I would always love to add to it just to shake it up a little bit. But next time on For the Kids, it's my turn to pick. Because it goes me, it goes Lucas, and then it goes a poll to the Patreon listeners. So, Lucas, it's my turn to pick. And you know what? We are recording this on the very first day of the holiday season, December 1st. And I think I didn't lose you again,
no,
did I?
I'm just waiting with bated breath of what is going to be this December connection. Will, please. I'm at the edge of my seat.
Well, I thought about it. And I decided that there's only going to be so many For the Kids episodes in December. In fact, this might be, as I look at it, the only proper one. We may be able to get to Lucas before the end of the year. It may be at the beginning of January. So I wanted to do something that was like a present to me. So we're going to go with what was, and maybe still is, one of my favorite shows of all time. It was an almighty source of obsession as a child. If I'm being honest, it still kind of is as an adult. And luckily, it did air in some form on PBS. And we're going to get into all of the ways. This is, the opposite of Maya and Miguel. This is going to require a lot of research that I'm happy to do about one of my favorite properties of all time. We're talking about Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends.
Whoa, toot toot.
It's toot indeed. It's going to be, I might have to start this a couple weeks early, but I'll be happy to do it. I really can't wait to talk about Thomas and Friends, and that is my Christmas gift, not just to me, but to y'all, because I'm going to make it a really fun episode, and there's going to be a lot to talk about, and I'm going to pick the best episode that I can think of to show to you, Lucas, as we find out exactly where you lie with Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends. Because I already tipped my hand a little bit to this.
I know. Until then, I'll never tell.
Well, for Maya and Miguel, we're going to be going to the island of Sodor very soon here on For the Kids. Thank you so much for your Patreon support. We really appreciate it, especially around this holiday season and in these uncertain times. Please let us know if there's anything that we can do for you as content providers. We have a lot of cool stuff coming in the works. December's going to look a little different in terms of content, but we're going to make sure that you are as happy as can be as we get into the holiday season here. And please let us know anything else that you would like for your time and money. We are always open to conversations, either privately or publicly, on the Discord or on Patreon, or on our social media for that matter. So, Lucas, very excited to get to the next episode, and I feel like we kind of tested the waters a little bit, so to speak, with Theodore Tugboat.
Yeah, that was a good prelude, but now it's time to... Listen, we didn't get our dinosaur train this week. Just train next week.
You got it. All right, so for Lucas Mancini, my name's Will Young, and that was...